to just affect the price like that. I mean, I'll give you a good example. So one of my clients told me, look, we have a regulated product, Tom, and we were talking to some major pension funds about coming into it, but we weren't sexy enough for them. And unfortunately, they put their money into 3AC and they put their money into FTX. And they lost it all. But rather than say, we're out of the crypto space, these major pension funds, this is obviously not in this market, came back to the client because they had the regulated product, said, no, we still want exposure to Bitcoin. We still want exposure to digital assets, but we now realize we should have done it in a sensible way.
I think besides, let's say, Bitcoin, yeah, if we talk about Bitcoin, my opinion is it will reach 1 million. I'm a believer.
When?
Yeah. I'm a believer, but I don't have a crystal ball, so let's put it this way. Yeah.
That's what everybody's waiting. When will it reach 1 million?
Yeah, so by now, I mean, you get 1 million, at least as long you...
Are you saying, Oliver, we should buy now?
In your lifetime.
That's what I'm thinking.
Influencer right there.
Yeah, so I'm a believer... No, there's no financial advice. On the way, my lawyer sits here, so have fun. Enjoy the conversation. No, but what I want to say is following. If we look to the blockchain technology for the other, let's say, other cryptocurrencies, it doesn't matter what it is. So we will see in the future that on the S&P 500, whatever, there will be also blockchain companies listed. Because you can never take back innovation and technology. So just here, I mean, always people saying, yeah, innovation drives in front or drives it. So I just think the difficult part is the adoption, yeah, of all of these technologies. So we had this hype now. It doesn't matter of cryptocurrencies, of Bitcoin or whatever. We had the hype now, and now because of the missing regulations in the market, it went down. So that's my personal opinion. But what we will see in the future is, I mean, I remember 96 or something when I had my first computer and internet. Everyone talk about internet. No one will talk about blockchain in 5 years because it will be adopted by the industry. So we are in a just transformation of flow of technology, and I think here blockchain was only one part, yeah, next part is maybe quantum or whatever, we will see this, yeah, but principally I think you will not able to stop the technology. It also means more and more will get digital. And that's the reason why I believe in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, yeah, that they will stay alive. I agree we have too many on the markets, yeah, but this is the same.
There's no real way to control that, correct? The number of cryptocurrencies that are out there.
But this is what each new economy needs. Yeah, if I look back in the 96 or 98, where we had all of these internet companies in Germany, I mean, for me it was very nice. I just was selling. But if I look now, which company is still existing, it's maybe 5%. And we will have here exactly the same. And for me, as a venture capitalist, it's interesting to understand what are these companies doing and which company I can invest, that my investment still in 5 years is valid.
Tom, you just mentioned that you believe there's an intrinsic value to Bitcoin. Please elaborate.
I think it's got a use case. I think the use case is, that's probably more specifically what I meant, yeah, rather than intrinsic value. And I think the use case is you know, at the heart of a lot of what we talk about with this technology is the decentralization, and that's a term that's thrown around. But for me, that's the democratization of people being able to control their money and their investments.
Be your own bank. That's what you mean?
After all that conversation, I think the price of Bitcoin just shot up.
Because of Oliver.
Traders are listening, that's good.
But talking about the internet and the parallels, I mean, someone years ago once, when they were getting very excited about blockchain and Bitcoin, and they explained it to me in this very simple way, and they said, and we probably all heard this, but the internet is a form, you know, originally when we were younger, we had in Carter, or, you know, we had to load up a CD-ROM or go to the library to get information. We had to go to a centralized managed source. The internet came along, it decentralized all forms of information sharing. It didn't decentralize the transfer of value. That's what blockchain does, and Bitcoin is the kind of talisman and the main thing of that. So for me, that's always the killer use case of it, and I think it'll always be there for that reason.
Moving away from Bitcoin, Tom, do you feel there is a short of legal companies within the region that have the necessary experience or the necessary licensing required to actually advise customers here?
I think if you ask the industry, there'd be about 1,000 people who say no, they're a crypto expert. There's so many of those. I heard one on the radio yesterday. Some of them are great. Some of them are genuinely really good, really plugged into the industry. Then I think you've got two poles with this. You've got a lot of very smaller boutique firms who are all in on crypto and they know the market and they know all the lingo, but don't necessarily, like, they're not dyed in the wool really good lawyers. And then you've got, like, probably the other end, very much institutional lawyers who work with major banks and things whose technical skill set is amazing, but they don't have that industry knowledge. And I think finding people in the middle is the key. And I think, so to answer your question, yes, I do think there are people. I think, but that comes over time, as I think Oliver said before. It's a new industry. No one's, I've worked in it for a while, but if I said it's probably 5 years, and that's not really that long. I've been a lawyer for 17. So I don't consider myself an expert, but compared to other people, maybe I am. And I think that the newness of the industry means that you're not going to have people who have got 10, 15 years of legal experience in it. But there's also a lot of transferable skills from other areas. Like, I'm a financial regulatory lawyer by trade, so I understand how regulation should work in the wider financial services space and therefore should apply to this nascent industry. But no, I think I think, like anything at this stage, there's a lot of people who claim to know what they're doing and they don't. But
to add, for some, I've seen instances here where there are traditional law firms that are focused on criminal law, that are focused on totally different law, and then here comes crypto. And they're quick to jump on this, I would say, opportunity. And what they do is, and I've seen this happening, is they would hire a guy, put him in the office and say, we are now crypto lawyers. Right? And it's happening a lot. Yes, and they're all overcharging. They overcharge the clients. It's like, I would say, would you say it's a money-making scheme?
I think it's people knee-jerk. They see an opportunity and it's a bit of greed. And I think lawyers aren't immune to that, but there's a lot of other people who aren't either. I think the remedy to that, or the way to look at it, I'll give you an example. So I have a fintech practice, so digital virtual assets is a key component of that, but we also do, say, payments work a lot. And I'd recognize that was a good opportunity for us to go into. And I'm not a payments lawyer. So what I did was, London and the UK has a really advanced open banking and payments regime. So I hired someone from that market who had actually been doing that for about 5 years, and they came over. They're now 8 years in the market doing payments work. So they've left me, unfortunately, in the general counsel of a big payments company. But the point was, I was not going to go, I'm Tom, I'm Mr. Payments now, I'm going to find someone who does that. Now, with the virtual asset space, because I've worked in it for a long time, I do feel comfortable that I can be that person within the team. But if something else came along, I wouldn't be turning my hand to it. I'd be finding someone. If there's not someone in the market who's doing it, then looking at another market and bringing them in.
Now, recently people have been talking about the metaverse, right? And as you know, a metaverse has its own economy, the way the system works, an entire ecosystem. We even spoke about the dark metaverse, where people will be doing some illegal stuff. On a legal standpoint, have you ever had a company come to you and say, legalize my economic entity within the metaverse?
Not that specific question. We are starting to work more with, I think I've definitely talked and advised a number of clients who want to do metaverse, and probably more from the NFT related position. And a lot of them are not at the stage where they have kind of got their act together to be, right, we want to have a proper, fully regulated, proper corporate structure around this. So I think it's still fairly early in that. I think a lot of people haven't got the kind of their arms around what the real use case is for it. The NFT and creating the ecosystem around the NFTs, we certainly have. And that was obviously an industry that exploded 24 months ago, and then has also kind of dropped back down a lot because there was a lot of hype and hysteria. I'm a big believer in the use case of NFTs. Maybe not how they've been used so far, but I think the legal structure and the technology is very game changing. I think the game changing thing of the metaverse and NFTs is not in the creating a full virtual world. It's things much more pedestrian, like helping people with education and things like that. So real world examples of the metaverse. And I think I think then when you talk about the legal implications of that, you have to contextualize them within those sectors.
I'm glad you mentioned NFTs. Do you think that NFTs are actually easing the burden of ownership in legal aspects?
I think they are, but there's a bit of work to go. Yeah, I'm a big believer in the democratization of people being able to invest in large-scale assets that NFTs allows for, and I think as a use case, an idea of non-fungible representation of ownership in a digital form is amazing. Now, in terms of legally how that works, it's not great right at the moment, because if you look at any NFT platform, what they're selling, when you get under the bonnet of the legals, it's pretty loose. You know, if it's a photo or it's a work of art, you have a very limited form of license to it. You don't own that photo in any form, and really what you've got is a contractual right of ownership, which is not the same as, you know, owning a property which is on a register. You know, if you own a house in Dubai, you're on the land department's register. You don't have to look at a contract. You can go to the Dubai government if someone parts into your house and says, "That's my house, get out," and the government will get those people out. Now, within an NFT, all you've got is a contractual right to the underlying asset, and for me, there needs to be more to strengthen that up. And maybe it's, you know, having like we have share registers that say, you know, that I've got legal right to own the share, and I don't have to go to another person and ask them that. I can go to the government or the regulator, and I think that's where we need to get to with NFTs. That there's a proper form of legal title that you get by virtue of having an NFT.
So,
Go ahead.
so Oliver, in regards to NFTs, as a venture capital, what are your thoughts on NFTs, and do you invest in projects that, as you know, most of the projects for NFTs, they have a hyped up scenario, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think you want to hear it. So, to be honest, I like as also Tom said here, NFTs as a technology for the future. I think it's very valuable. I also commit that there's a huge of real use cases for NFTs. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's right or something else, and especially for the consumption industry, I see there a huge case for them. For creating digital pictures and selling for a lot of money, I would say that shouldn't be really the final use case for NFT, because it's just not the right use of the technology. So, and I would really like to see, especially for the NFTs, that we're getting more startups in the market which really using it for logistic, healthcare, and whatever. It's a huge space for NFTs, and I would really like to see that we get more user cases, more startups which are using the NFTs in a more economic way, as it's just done by, let's say, selling and buying pictures.
Guys, we are approaching the end of this panel. We've got 10-15 more minutes. I don't want to end without touching perhaps the hottest potato in the crypto financial market in the past few weeks, which is FTX. I think it was yesterday, the day before, that SBF got caught in Bahamas. Now, basic question. Why did the FTX collapse happen? And if there any way that we can prevent a new FTX from happening in the near future?
So I mean, I think it's been there's been a lot of coverage as to why it happened, but I would kind of distill it down. I think there's a lot of SBF, you know, the SBF and his cadre of leadership being inexperienced and naive, and then there's, oh, you know, crypto's not properly regulated and it shouldn't have been in an offshore location and everything. I think you can put all that aside. Those guys were crooks, and I'm not willing to, you know, it's old school financial fraud that happened there. There's nothing elaborate about that. It's not. We've seen this through various stages of the market. There's always criminals in the market. What he did was criminal conduct, and he should have got booked. It's not even as the auditor who's now the CEO said. Sorry, the restructuring guy. He said, this is not. It's not even that complicated or sophisticated. It's old school criminal behavior. I mean, the numerous aspects we could get into on it. And did you say, like, what do we do about that and how do we address it?
Yeah, I mean, can we prevent the new FTX from happening perhaps with the current regulation?
Yeah, no, I think we absolutely can, and I think what will happen is we'll probably go like all markets do. I remember some grizzled old lawyer saying at the height of the 2008 financial crash, and he said, look, I've seen this before, Tom. He said, what we'll do is we'll just massively overregulate everything, and then we'll slowly pare it back. We'll make the same mistake again. And I think there's an element of that. There's huge learnings from FTX, but we don't. I don't think the learning should be all crypto is intrinsically prone to this. I think sandal-wearing, floppy-hair guys who promote themselves as something they're maybe not, probably.
But there is a confidence crisis right now because of it. Wouldn't you consider that?
Yeah, I think there is, but I think the confidence needs to be. The questions need to be directed at the right problems. The problem isn't the technology. The problem isn't crypto as an industry. It's those. I think it's the ethos of we can go park in an offshore location, which has really got no business building an actual global financial center, and then think we're okay. I'm personally quite against the whole parking crypto into these strange regimes who have just decided it's a good way for them to make money. I know some people would disagree with that, but I'm a big believer that proper financial centers should be housing what are going to be the financial institutions of the future. And I know that's a bit anti-anarchist, but that's what I believe. Yeah.
Oliver?
I mean, they've already said more or less everything to FTX, so I don't have to add there so much. But I want to take another topic, according to the topic what we should talk about, is about the future of money. Yeah, so my personal opinion, the governments, they somehow did not a very well job about the fiat currencies, and they brought us in this also like financial crisis in which we are. It's part of human being maybe to say, yeah, I took my lesson and then doing maybe other mistakes. But I think there's one aspect what is very important why we definitely should have cryptocurrencies as payment systems. And this is just because our developed or like current financial system excluding too many people of the chain of production, of the chain of wealth and so on. What I mean is, if I look for customers in Africa, or we're also paying people in Nigeria for marketing or whatever. So, and if I would do a bank payment for, let's say, $600 or in this kind, and they pay $100 for banking fee, so it's not valid for them. If I look for, if I want to include more people in the world and bring them wealth, means that they can live accordingly, if they can send their kids to school, that they have a social environment, all these kinds of things, I have to bring business to them. I have to bring to them economy. So what our financial system did over the last years was to excluding them from this. And that's the reason. Nowadays, if someone, let's say, is in a small city in Nigeria, he only needs internet and he needs a wallet. And then he can produce and can participate on the wealth change in this world. So and that's the reason why I think crypto accomplishment, what we have at the moment, or what is missing in our financial system. And that's the reason why I think it's very important, yeah, because we cannot tell to the people, it doesn't matter where, we excluding you because we don't want to have you inside. Yeah, so and I think that's very important to understand that let's say crypto is part of this puzzle to include more people and to create more wealth in this world.
So you would expect, for example, cryptocurrencies to take a much bigger role in international transactions?
I mean, the banks have also their lobbies, as everyone. So don't be naive and don't think that this is not regular or it's not done. So, of course, they have no interest of having crypto in the market because we're just destroying their banking fees.
Unless they create, a bank creates their own exchange or something like that, and
yes,
they get into the business.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's, as I said at the beginning, it's too less as a VC just to deploy money. The good startups, the good companies, they're asking, okay, what additional value you bring to us? So the banking system will look in 15 to 20 years completely different as it looks today. Yeah, but I'm not saying banks are not existing. but let's say the kind of banks and how they are, let's say, implemented in the economy, this will change. And this depends very much on all of us here, how much we're using these new technologies. Because this will bring them under pressure, because they're losing customers, they're losing revenue streams, and this is when they will start changing their mentality. But don't expect they will do it from themselves. They were trying to protect, and that's maybe also part of human, I'm not a judge, as I said, I understand them, but it's about all of us using new technologies and adopt them in our daily life to make this world better, yeah? And of course, it's somehow their job to protect their revenue streams. But at one point, they have to open if the pressure is too high. That's just market.
Gentlemen, thank you for your insights. If you don't have any further questions, maybe
No,
we can get some questions.
One last question for both of them. What we ask everybody is like, what lies ahead in the future for both of you? What are you expecting?
Yeah, what's the next step?
Yeah.
Some exciting things happening. Tell me.
I think the next step is, well, I would look at it personally, the area I kind of focus on is the Middle East, and I also cover Southeast Asia. I think those markets will continue to see the lion's share of people coming in and investing in this space. I think they're both positioned to do really well. I think I'm not going to predict the end of the bear market, well, the timing for it, but I think it will end. I think we're seeing some decoupling from the wider financial markets at the moment, but I think also as they calm down and they steady and they start to get better, we'll see some tracking of that. So I think by this time next year we'll be in a much different and more positive market. I suppose in terms of what I see in the industry specifically, I'm a financial services lawyer, so I focus on the use case, and I completely echo Oliver's points on the unbanked people and the way that this technology can be used for them, and I agree that's really one of the key areas I think we should be focusing on and bringing that up, and I think the Gulf is a perfect place to do that from, because you've got the first world infrastructure, and then you can use that as a hub to go into Africa and the wider countries that perhaps don't have those things in place just yet, and build those businesses out and service those people. So, yeah.
I think Dubai will go on as it always did. I see very positive what's going on here. I see a lot of new talents coming to Dubai, so it will help the market. And Dubai takes profit of the, let's say, the situation or different situations what we have in the world without naming them now. So, but I think Dubai will go on, and we will see, I think maybe not coming more startups like an average, but I think the quality of startups will be better, because the good thing in the beer market is that it's good for people who know what they're doing. Yeah, and the bullish market was more or less for people, sometimes I was thinking, okay, I really don't think what they're doing. So I think this beer market will clean a bit the whole situation, yeah, and additional to this, I think we're really getting out. I don't know when, but everything what's going down is going up at one point. If you had enough crises in your life, you understand this. So, and I'm looking forward to this, and I think the best thing what I only can say, like from a VC side, is, you know, making the right investments now in the infrastructure, having to look the right people on board, yeah, and getting placed for the moment when the market picked up again.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We will now get questions from the audiences. So if anybody has a question, I see your hand raising right there. If you can just briefly introduce yourself and then ask your question.
My name is Ammar. Can you hear me?
Not really.
No, we cannot hear you, but if you talk louder, it's enough,
Yeah.
I think.
Talk louder.
Yeah.
So my name is Ammar. I want to say thank you so much for this talk. The question that I have is, will cryptocurrencies be more secure in the future? Right? We hear about people who lose their money simply because you know, an exchange has been hacked and they lose a lot of money. So cryptocurrency came to enhance this trust issue. So how is the cryptocurrency enhancing the trust issue of not losing fiat money if exchanges can be hacked and if people can
Well, there are always bad people in this world, and most likely the good people running behind the bad people, because they have time and to think about what they're doing next. I don't think there's any possibility to say this will be not happen in the future. It would be just a lie, but I don't know. But principally, I think that, of course, with higher regulations, we also will get higher standards of security. And I'm looking forward to find a company which makes wallets easier and the transfer of amounts easier, and to protect wallets as well. So we are in the middle of this transmission, and I would not expect that everything is perfect from the beginning, and I feel very sorry for everyone who lost money. I'm also part of this, to be honest. Yeah, I also lost money. So, but there's no way to make this really secure. Even today, if you go to a bank, everyone thinks, okay, bank, my money is safe by the bank. It's not. That's just the reality, and there's a lot of fraud going on, and you see this every day. Yeah, so from this side, I think it will get more secure in the future, yeah, because of the made experience. Does it will be ever 100% secure? I would say no.
Please.
Two topics I was interested in that we didn't get to cover. Right here. Okay. Hi. Two things I thought, things that I was interested in is one, from a legal, the role of DAOs and how those are going to impact the way organizations are run. I think the legal on that is still murky. And then the other question was about CBDCs and how we think that's going to influence everything, because a lot of the concern that you see about CBDCs is, well, the government will just know everything I'm doing because it's a centralized currency, and then they can turn off your money, they can control it. So those are two, and they're both for both of you, but two topics.
With the distributed automated organizations, yeah, I've seen them in various permutations the last few years. I think there's only a few states at the moment that you know, actually, I think it's Wyoming actually has the DAO regime, doesn't it? And I've got a couple of clients who have established like that, and I've got contacts. I think it's a bit of a work in progress. I think, you know, originally, you know, what we had before the kind of explicit DAO was it was almost like the foundation structure, which was this idea of democratized decision making within an organization. So I think it's a great thing worth exploring. I think it's got really interesting legal implications. But what I've seen in you know, I've done a lot of work, say for example, with the EOS network and a lot of the EOS Foundation and those guys. And whilst they didn't have a DAO, they were kind of espousing the idea of this decentralized leadership process. But what we know that happens is when you've got a bunch of block producers or particularly powerful ones, they essentially centralize the leadership and you get back to where you started. And without being too cynical about it, I do think there's a reason organizations, be they countries, you know, states, businesses, have a hierarchical leadership with one guy on the top or one woman on the top making the decisions. It seems to work quite well. So I'm not 100% down that it's the future of the world, but I think it's something that I believe in. We should be exploring it more. Yeah.
Anyone else?
CBDCs?
Oh, sorry.
I'll make a quick comment on that. I think it is an interesting thing, and I think, you know, the point you made about the issues or the concerns around it, I think are valid. And, you know, you only have to look at there's one country in the world who we know who really likes to control their population and control speech and everything, and they're one of the biggest fans of it. And to my mind, that's not because, and they also happen to be the same one that have banned all forms of decentralized crypto, right? So, I don't know. I'll leave it at that.
That might be a red flag.
It might be a red flag.
If they're all for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Does anybody have questions? If not, then we have one more question.
Thanks. I'm really interested to hear a bit more on your take on regulation. So do you feel that it's a lift and shift of existing financial regulation? And I can see obviously you're both involved in doing that, and I understand why that exists. Obviously that regulation exists to solve trust problems, allow investors to invest with confidence and risk adjust based on the sophistication of the investor. Or do you think there's an opportunity to create much more innovative regulation, permit more innovation, and use blockchain to solve trust issues. So we don't need to just take the existing financial regulation into the industry.
I've done a lot of the projects I've done over the last few years have been what I describe as global regulatory mapping exercises to see how not every country, but let's say 20 to 30 countries at a time have approached this and do a complete comparison, and then, for the client, basically describe how they could do business across those markets. And there's been, what I would describe, Lucy, as probably 2 or 3 different approaches. There's the one you quite eloquently said. There's adapting the existing financial services rules to this new technology. And then there's the ones of, we're going to completely start from scratch and come up with something completely different. Without wishing to sound too much like a lawyer, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. I'm a big believer in principle-based regulation, so not being overly prescriptive. And I'm a huge believer that regulation and law should always be done in a technology-neutral way. And I don't believe in creating law and regulation directed by technology, because I think it's limited and it becomes outdated too quickly. I think you've got the ADGM and the DIFC here as perfect examples where that's what they've done. They've adapted their existing model for the crypto space. And I think it's quite neat. It's done a good job, and it's provided certainty for a lot of people to come into those markets and get set up. Where it falls short, and I'd say this if I had someone from the ADGM or the DIFC, and I'm sure they would agree with me, is when we start talking about the more innovative end of this industry. And the perfect example is anything in the DeFi realm. And that is, I've got a major Singaporean client who we're working with the ADGM. They've got a huge DeFi platform, and we've essentially had to ring fence the DeFi aspects off, park them offshore, and then do the more traditional exchange things within the ADGM. And everyone's happy with that, but that's a workaround, So I think then there's more that needs to be done to address those. And I think, picking DeFi particularly is an obvious one, to your point, that maybe we do look at that technology and go, how can we do something a little differently there? Because the current model always, the current financial services model means that you've got to have an obliger who's got to comply with the rules. And the nature of decentralization is there shouldn't be that person. So how do you regulate that? And I think you've got to, I don't have an answer on that, but I think I agree with you that you have to be more clever about it rather than just go, we can use existing principles.
Tom, Oliver, thank you very much. And I would like to thank the audience for their questions. We have another exciting panel coming up after a short break, after which we'll have some lunch. And thank you very much. We now end this session.
Check, check.
This.
Test.
Please welcome back. We're going to continue that matinee for the second part of that roundtable called Future of Finance, Reinventing Money. And please welcome Ronit Khopkar, co-founder and CEO at Barter. We have also Mena Botros, founder at Cryptis. Welcome. And also Michaela Lallouz, founder at Web3 Space. Thank you.
This is going to be exciting. Welcome. And we will now start our next session. How about we start off with some introductions, let the audiences know who you are, what you do, and a brief about yourselves. Ronit, please.
Hello.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Hamza. Thank you, Leandro, for inviting me here. My name is Ronit. We are building a regulated crypto payment solution. I have about 10 years of work in the finance industry and education space, primarily across trading, payments, lending, and insurance. And we are building the solution here for merchants based out of UAE.
Hi there. Is this on? Should I just talk loud?
No, it should be working.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, thank you so much. So, my name is Mena. Very nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. I'm the founder of Cryptix. We deal in investment advisory. And I've been helping crypto projects to raise funds, specifically from Dubai and Abu Dhabi, over the last 5 years. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see everyone's face. My name is Michaela. On Twitter, it's Mika. And I've been in the industry now for a little bit, in metaverse years, I guess, sometime. I've explored different areas of the industry, like content creation, art, advisory, and all bits of the industry. So.
Well, Michaela, you know, when you said all bits, I have to pull this up, right? It's quite inspiring because you do a lot of things. Let me read it out, yeah? Web3 strategist, mental health artist, filmmaker, journalist, public speaker, director, and actress. Wow. Tell me more about, like, these different ventures, what you do in these different spaces. And it also says that you work for a non-profit company devoted for emotional well-being. So I'm really curious to know how you integrate Web3 with all this.
Yeah, so mental health artist, I'll touch on that. That's how I got into the industry. By the way, again, it's nice to see everybody's face here because usually I'm doing this daily on Twitter Spaces, where I see everybody's, you know, little profile pictures. But yeah, I got into the space as an artist where I would write my, I would do reflective journaling. So it's basically like journaling on photographs I would take of myself, and then I would mint that, basically release that on the blockchain. And then with the investments that I made from selling my art, I invested early on into the biggest blue chip projects today. Like some of you know, maybe that famous ape that has sold for millions of dollars. I invested in that very early on at around $600. Later sold it for 15x, around 100,000, pretty nice. But in that, I started getting into the flipping game, so the trading game of NFTs. That's why I said I touched so many parts of the industry, which, you know, selling my own work, so coming in as an artist, and then getting into the trading and flipping game of the collectibles, digital collectibles and communities, and then really being like a, you know, one of the pioneers in that, and then making a lot of mistakes and then teaching people from my mistakes. So later on getting into education, because you could kind of look back and you fail so much and you're like, oh, I actually do know a thing or two that I could teach. So I got into education, released a couple of, you know, courses, and have been helping bringing people into the Web3 space, and really focused on culture and community as well.
Very, very inspiring. Ronit, you said you're into finance, right? And I'm also curious about the name Barter. Explain what you do exactly with barter and finance?
Right. So like I said, we are building a regulated crypto payment solution. So in a very simple language, what it will do is it will let customers pay using cryptocurrency for purchase of goods and services, with merchant not having to deal with cryptocurrency. So what will simply happen is the customer will pay in cryptocurrency and the merchant will directly receive the fiat equivalent of it into their bank account in a regulated manner.
Adding to that question, when a merchant receives a payment in terms of crypto, we all know that crypto is highly volatile.
Right.
Say I paid, hopefully not 2 bitcoins for a, or 10,000 bitcoins for a pizza, but if I pay right now with the Bitcoin,
Right.
the price is fluctuating.
Right.
How does the merchant actually have the a surety that he is getting what the customer has actually paid for?
Right, that's actually a very interesting question, right? So, so what we have done is we have partnered with licensed technology payment solutions like Coinify and a licensed settlement partner here in UAE. So at the back end, what is exactly happening is that once the customer makes a payment, in the sense clicks the payment link, opens any non-custodial wallet and makes payment using any cryptocurrency, in the back end, what is happening is that the crypto is getting converted real time into fiat. So that cancels the volatility risk. You're absolutely right. Merchants' expenditure, which is basically their employee salaries and their vendor client payments, are in fiat currencies. So they don't want to deal with cryptocurrency, right? So what we do is we convert that crypto real time into fiat and then we settle it into their bank account. So the merchant doesn't have to manage volatility risk. That is being taken care of at the back end on the fly.
Very interesting.
But, sorry, let me add on to that, because even if it's done in real time, prices change every second.
Right.
And you as a payer, how much crypto would you know that you need to use in order to make that payment? If the price now is whatever, 0.1 ETH, but perhaps 1 second later is 0.99 ETH.
Right.
How would you know that?
Right. So that's actually a very good question.
Thank you.
In a normal scenario, the volatility. So when I say normal scenario, I'm taking a time frame of roughly about 5 to 10 minutes. The volatility will not be so much, right? So what happens is the entities or exchanges or solution providers at the back end, they have already calculated and analyzed a certain percentage of volatility for each cryptocurrency.
Okay.
So they will include that as a spread. Now that spread can be 0.25%, 0.5%, 1% in the price that they are showing to the customer.
So you're forecasting the price
For that 5 minutes, yes, absolutely, absolutely, right? So they're taking, because they're taking the risk for the downside as well. For example, if the value of Bitcoin goes down, they'll have to settle the same amount to the merchant, right? So they are kind of adjusting for that.
And isn't that forecast a percentage of company's revenue or not?
Yes, it's the risk and reward for that technological solution provider, yes, of course.
I could imagine that.
Yeah. So it's basically how all general exchanges work. Not just crypto, but crypto exchanges as well, fiat exchanges.
It's almost like, it's like a real-time exchange coupled with a payment solution, something.
That's the beauty.
I'm curious to know about the user experience. So I walk in and I go to a store and I need to have a wallet, right? Say Coinify wallet?
So you can have any wallet, Coinify wallet as well, but you can have any custodial wallet, whatever wallet you have in which you have cryptocurrency.
And then I tap.
Right.
And the merchant receives fiat.
Right. So it's more like a payment gateway, Hamza. So what basically means is that the software solution is sold to the merchant and not to the customer, right? So let's say, let's take an example. A user walks into a coffee shop, for example, and the user wants to make payment using cryptocurrency. Now that coffee shop is already partnered with us, with Barter. So they already have the backend infra ready. So let's say the customer says that I want to make payment using cryptocurrency. In crude scenario, what we can also do is we can show a QR code or we can send a payment link to the customer. Like when the customer clicks the payment link, it shows the crypto equivalent value. Let's say this random value is $100, let's say. So it will show crypto equivalent of, let's say, what's $100 equal to in Bitcoin, Ether, Matic, etc., in other stable coins, etc. And then the customer can choose the cryptocurrency they want to use through the wallet that they want to use. And then the payment is transferred from there at the back end directly into the payment solution provider. They hold that fund and then they convert it real time into fiat And then with the help of a licensed settlement partner, the $100 minus whatever the merchant fee is, let's say 0.25%, 0.5%, is deposited into the bank account of the merchant. The ideal use case, though, is not for low value transactions because of the gas fee and the percentage of transaction cost that is involved. It's on the higher side.
And do you, I mean, I'm just curious, and do you have a list of cryptocurrencies, like the top 10, top 20, or you can use any cryptocurrency to pay?
So as of now, we are supporting roughly about 25 cryptocurrencies, but the ideal case solution is any cryptocurrency that the customer has. Essentially, when you tie up with these crypto exchanges or solution providers, any cryptocurrency that they support can be supported for this. So the customer doesn't have to worry about whether I have that kind of cryptocurrency in my wallet. So that's a convenience that we are giving to the customer as well.
Interesting.
Mina, sorry. You asked us to ask you the difficult questions, and we were discussing Bitcoin before getting on stage. Tell us a bit about your experience with Bitcoin.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just a basic entrepreneur, but I'm here with very talented people, an artist and a financial crypto expert. But essentially, I got into Bitcoin because there was somebody in my network who said, I got this job for Bitcoin in 2017, and I thought it was something to look past, and I did a bit of research, and within 2 weeks, I quit my job. I used to work at PwC, and I started to do blockchain events. We started the first ever blockchain event, and I went down the rabbit hole, and it just blew my mind. And the first 2 months of dealing with crypto and Ethereum, I lost 30,000 dirhams, and it was within like a 15-minute time frame during
We've all been
January.
there, perhaps not at the same level, but we've all been there.
That's right. So once I understood what Bitcoin is and how, you know, it's the most advanced technological system that we have in terms of dealing with money, which is completely different than currency, I stopped losing money. And I stopped looking at the price. And anytime I've lost money with Bitcoin, it's been my fault. I took responsibility for my own greed of trying to do like a 10x or a 100x or any kind of crypto. So once I understood the technology and what it actually means, and the fact that, you know, I can send you right now $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, it'll reach you.
Do you want my address?
It will reach you, you know, within minutes if you use the priority network, and the transaction fees will be $3. And then the next day you try to send me something through the bank, and it takes 4 days, and you know they have to do their compliance, of course, right? But it takes so long. Once I understood those basic, you know, processes, that's when I understood that blockchain is a wild technology that's going to change the way that we interact with the financial system.
Interesting.
So it was very easy for me to stop losing money and looking at the price once I understood the actual technology.
So Michaela, you help companies enter the Web3 space, and here we are talking about Bitcoin. How do you integrate this into your education when users want to enter the Web3 space? What are your thoughts and what are your suggestions?
Education. Okay, so if you want to be prosperous in this space, it's all about education. So you touched on a lot of amazing points. Before we can get to anything, you know, if you go on TikTok or YouTube and you see somebody say, oh, I made, you know, $300,000 off of this JPEG, and you're like, okay, I want to get rich quick, and I want to, you know, or Bitcoin, and now I'm rich. It's like you're down a rabbit hole that you can lose a lot. If you get educated, you can make a lot. So the first part to education is understanding what phase of the internet we're entering. So just understanding the Web3 culture, community, and ethos. And you learn a lot just by understanding what phase of the internet that we're in. So that's like step number one is, you know, people skip to Bitcoin and Ethereum and then NFTs, and they just like go all over the place. Number one, look at the foundation of where you are. So what is Web3? Because I think the whole thing, not to bring it up and we won't touch on it maybe, but the FTX situation, I think this was a huge wake-up call to a lot of people where they are like, wait a minute, I don't really know that much about crypto and NFTs in the Web3 space. Because the first thing that we learn, or that I'll teach, is not your keys, not your crypto. So a centralized exchange is just like the same thing as a bank. So they can lock up your funds, which is kind of against the Web3 ethos. In Web3, having a crypto wallet, it means that anybody, anywhere, no matter what their financial background is, as long as they have a device that connects to Wi-Fi, can have access to a bank account and can transfer currency, funds. So just that right there, learning about cold storage. I know there was a question earlier, and I'll stop after this, about, will crypto be safe? Crypto technology is safe. It's about education. Most people lose their funds or get scammed, not because crypto is a scam, it's because of social engineering and not understanding the technology. Nobody can take away your funds if you know how to use your funds. And the question that I'll pose to the audience and even back to you guys is, who do you trust more? The centralized exchanges or yourself? If you don't trust yourself in this game, if you don't trust holding a cold storage and holding your funds, then you're not educated enough. You got to go back to the drawing board and learn a little bit more, and then you'll trust yourself.
So you expect the future of finance to be in decentralized finance, decentralized exchange, and not in places like, for example, Binance?
Well,
it's a
tricky question.
Yeah.
Actually, to add to that, I mean, you're 100% right.
The question is for all of you.
Yeah, sure. After this, I want to give you
people
my
actually
answer.
make mistakes because they think there's a bubbled up hype scenario. And would you agree there are tons and tons of misleading information and education at this point of time on social platforms like YouTube and so on and so forth. And also there's the word of mouth. So you must be facing some difficulty tackling that.
Definitely. That's why I got into education, because I was in a bubble. When I was trading and I was selling my art, I accidentally went viral on TikTok talking about the asset that I bought for $600 that's now I was getting bids for, for $60,000. And I was like, oh guys, you shouldn't sleep on NFTs. And this was a year ago. And overnight I got 1 million views. I had 1 million people asking me what an NFT was. And I was like, I don't know, why are you asking me, Or they're like, do you have a course? And I was like, me? I'm not an expert, I don't know anything. And they're like, well, actually you do. And then I saw all the people on YouTube and these social platforms leading people just going straight to how to create a MetaMask wallet and an OpenSea wallet without talking about what Web3 is or what cryptocurrency is or understanding the blockchain and what you're doing and what this means. And I was like, more people are going to get hurt in this big boom. So education is, don't skip on it. It is, knowledge truly is power in every game, but especially this one, because I see a lot of people who are excited about Web3, are excited about blockchain, excited about NFTs, but because of their lack of education and wanting to skip steps, more harm than good. This industry is not the place to skip steps, because we really have to take responsibility and be our own bank. To be our own bank, we must be educated on how to run our own bank.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I want to add to this, okay? This is extremely important. I'm going to go to a controversial level, okay? This is going to annoy you.
We like
I'm telling you right
controversy.
now. This is going to annoy you, okay? If crypto gets regulated, it loses the entire point of what crypto is, all right? Most people got into crypto because it was this wild, crazy thing that made them feel like rebels, right? And this is why they got in. If crypto gets regulated, then what's the point of investing in regulated cryptos? Might as well invest in stocks or real estate. There's no point. You're going to lose that, wild volatility that people look for and this technology enthusiast kind of feeling.
But there's also a lot of capital that is not coming into crypto because it's
100%.
not regulated.
ICOs were initially created, okay, back in 2017 when we were helping, 2017 when we were helping people do ICOs. It was created because it was an easy way for you to raise capital. Instead of doing an equity raise where you had to have lawyers that you probably as a startup couldn't finance and do all these deals and all this stuff, right? So ICOs were created to help you bypass these regulations. But again, the point is this. I will talk about myself, okay? I don't do enough technological research and practice to sit down and actually read what a hash transaction is and learn about the blockchain and how it moves through blocks and how to actually use the wallet and what a cold storage is. If people did that, if you sit down and you spent 10 minutes a day just learning about how to actually use the technology, a lot of these scams would stop, because most people get into it from their buddy who tells them about it. They go to a centralized exchange, and they just keep their I have a friend who lost 7 million dirhams, like $3 million, because he used to use FTX as his bank, which is entirely not the point of crypto, right? You should have all your crypto on your wallet or cold storage. So people sometimes blame the technology, but they also fail to understand that people don't actually know the technology. They don't try to practice, including myself, all right? I'm not trying to sound like I don't make mistakes.
Very interesting. I kind of see a link here now. You spoke about education and you emphasized on that. Ronit, do you think this is also one of the biggest barriers? For example, the lack of education when somebody wants to, if you go to a user right now, a traditional user who likes to pay cash or card, and you tell him, come, pay with crypto. Now he doesn't understand the ecosystem or the benefits, neither do the merchants. And you must be facing this from the merchant side. So how do we educate the merchants? How do we educate the users and change their mindset? Because one of the biggest challenges today is changing the mindset of the users.
Right, so I'll answer that from a business perspective, right? I'm not very sure if I want to change the user's mindset, right? I want to educate them about what is cryptocurrency, what are the benefits, that's advantages and disadvantages of that. Not very sure of whether I want to change the mindset. How I'd like to answer this question is that there's a lot of technology and a lot of new terms, or I would call it like the natural language of cryptocurrency is different than the common language that we speak. That distance themselves from the normal crowd, and which is one of the reasons why you don't see mainstream adoption of cryptocurrencies. There are multiple reasons why there is no mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency, but this language barrier is that, right? So first we have to simplify that. And moving to his question on that, right? The question was on future, whether the future is in CFI or DeFi or that, right? I don't think it is either or. I think there is future everywhere. Let's take an example of centralized finance. Whatever that was happening before crypto came in was centralized finance. So there is future there that will continue to happen. Web2 finance will continue to grow, thrive and excel. The benefit of DeFi as a concept is that you can use the immutable data structure on blockchain to add as a product to your centralized finance. For example, let's say you want to calculate the credit or risk score for a particular investment or for a particular insurance. Then if you have that data on a DeFi protocol, your confidence in that is far, far higher than believing a private entity that says that, okay, the credit score of this person is so and so, right? So you see future there. Let's talk about centralized exchange. Why there is future in centralized exchange is that how else in a convenient manner can customers move from crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto, right? So they are at the I would say fulcrum of both the worlds. So they have a very important role to play in adoption of cryptocurrency, and that brings in a lot of responsibility also to them, right? So a lot of fiascos that happen because of bad behavior. And DEXs, right? I think DEXs have a long way to go with respect to bringing in convenience for everybody else to start adopting. Having said that, I believe it is on a little bit on the customer also to get themselves more aware, provided there is a need. If there is no need, you will not see that happening. It is not an ideological concept only.
Now, Mena, you said that having regulations for crypto defies the purpose. Now I'm curious, right? You were a payment service provider. Now, I see the smiles on your faces. The need for regulatory aspects is imperative here.
Yeah.
That's one.
That's my belief, yeah.
Number two, a user walks in. Is there a KYC or AML happening? Where's the money coming from when he pays?
All right, sure, thank you. So I'm a person who believes in regulation, okay? If I pay you for a business service and you're a DED company, I should be able to complain to the DED. Actually, I call the DED a lot. Okay? So I believe in regulation, but I'm a realist, all right? Bitcoin was created, and that's what, like, blockchain was created for Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin was created, we created crypto, right? So crypto or blockchain were created as a decentralized means of moving data. That is what it is. Us trying to modify it to fit a centralized regulatory kind of model just means that we should use this technology as a better technology, right? Like the government could use blockchain on a private server so that they can move data faster and more validated than 5 employees sitting behind the computer, like approving data. Fine, that's something. But crypto was created as a decentralized means of moving data around, and then it got used as a fiat thing. So removing the decentralized aspect means it's not really what it was created for in the first place. That's what makes it secure, but at the same time is what makes it unregulated. The fact that me, you, or anybody here can't regulate crypto is why it's secure. It's untouched by the human. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if it loses that aspect, it loses the security, but then it just becomes, I guess, safer.
Let me go back to the concept of adoption. Again, the question goes for all of you. You can all give us your point of view from your specific perspective. Where is adoption coming from? And I mean, from a geographical standpoint, from a socio-economic standpoint, where do you see the adoption of cryptos coming from?
So inherent use of cryptocurrencies, from our observations, what we found is that we see a lot of rational use case in cross-border remittances and cross-border payments for purchase of goods and services, simply because if it's a liquid currency, liquid international currency such as the currencies of developed countries, then the transaction costs for cross-border payments are not very high, but they're still as high as maybe 2.5 to 3.5%. Take that to not so liquid currencies, fiat currencies of underdeveloped or developing nations. If you want to transfer money from one part of the world, let's say Argentina, to let's say United States or maybe somewhere in UAE, that transaction cost goes as high as 8 to 10%, which is just unfair in my opinion. Right? It's not feasible, right? So that is one use case. The second use case of cryptocurrency is when the inherent fiat currency, as the second case of cryptocurrency as a currency or a monetary medium is when your own currency, the currency of your country, is not very stable. And we are seeing that a lot in South America, right? So then people naturally, psychologically tend to hedge their savings, their hard-earned money to a commodity that is more safe or something that is hard money. So in this case, that becomes either a currency of stronger nation or a stronger currency, or it becomes a cryptocurrency that is more stable, or it becomes stable coin. So something like that. I see that. It's more of a psychological standpoint.
Very interesting. Now, all of you mentioned decentralized. This is for you, Michaela. So you are at the moment very, very prominent on centralized social media, right? Twitter, TikTok. Did it ever occur to you that, or did you ever think about having a decentralized, or do you see any decentralized social platform coming about? And does it worry you that having your content and you say something and a user actually reports it, that you are in the risk of being shut down?
Step by step. Yeah, definitely the conversation has come up because like the most popular place to join the Web3 space is on Twitter, which is a centralized social media platform. Yeah, it's tough. We discuss this all the time about decentralization and like how would you monitor the content, and who's to say that the content should be taken down or this and that, and like we're seeing this a lot right now with Elon Musk and his takeover of Twitter. So it's a hard topic to touch on, but I feel like it's kind of just, it's on the side for me personally, like when talking about like Web3 and NFTs, and I know this discussion is mainly focused on crypto, which is obviously the foundation of, you know, NFTs, digital collectibles and whatnot, but if you guys want, we could open up the discussion maybe to, you know, NFTs, Web3, like metaverse and that type of topic, because I feel like people, going back to the education, don't even really understand like what it means for something to be fully decentralized or something to be actually centralized. Because again, we saw it with FTX, the people did not understand what it means to have a centralized exchange. So can't really comment too much on the social media part just because I feel like it's all over the place and I'm not really sure, you know, what the future holds with that, with content.
Now, your slogan on LinkedIn says, helping users enter the metaverse. And I'm going to get to the metaverse in payments and your thoughts as well. So, there are different metaverses, right? I'm a user, and I say I want to enter the metaverse. Which metaverse are you going to let the user enter? Because there's so many of them. What is your education process then?
Yeah, so I think what I mean by metaverse is like, you know, Web3, I think it's like kind of became like a buzzword. And it's like what catches people's attention because they don't even, some people want to come into the space and they don't even know that entering, like exploring the metaverse is actually Web3. So, you know, again, under Web3, there's metaverse, the NFTs, digital collectibles, crypto, decentralization. So there's like a lot that falls under that umbrella. But so let's say somebody comes to me and they're like, okay, Michaela, I want to enter the metaverse, which is, you know, the 3D space and pivot my company there. I see a lot of people coming in because it's like, oh, this is a buzzword and this is exciting and I could like get rich quick and I could, you know, maybe I might have failed in the Web 2 space, so I'm going to come and make it in the Web 3 space. Here's my message to everybody, and hopefully this answers your question. If you are not either solving a problem or using the NFT and Web3 technology to get closer to your community, go right back to the drawing board because I see a lot of big companies, again, like huge companies that come into the space, like Starbucks, Tiffany & Co. and all of these companies, and the community sits and we watch and I've seen all of these artists, celebrities come in and the projects fail. And you're like, why are they failing? You know, these are huge Web 2 companies coming in and really talk about mass adoption. We just talk about adoption. There already is mass adoption. It's just, are they utilizing NFT technology or the, you know, the tokenomics or metaverse technology properly, or are they just using it because of a buzzword?
I'm curious. You bought Bored Ape at $600 and 15x, you said? It went up. Now, that's one scenario. And I don't see a use case at the moment for Bored Ape.
Done it a couple of times.
Okay. But I don't see, in my perspective, a use case for Bored Ape. Now,
making 15x.
I mean,
That's
apart from you know, Bubble making make money. But, and you spoke about use cases. After having learned, you know, and going through this journey, do you now encourage users or people to focus on NFTs that actually have a use case? Or do you still go with projects, do you think, that are cheaper now, and then boom, 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 you can set it later on?
So in regards to the Bored Ape Yacht Club ecosystem, at the time, the use case was community. It was launched at a time where the world was quite lonely and in quote-unquote lockdown during the pandemic. So the use case was having a community. Again, community is a buzzword, but it really is what made this whole thing pump in the way that it did. Is we were together spending hours, it felt like a huge sleepover with, you know, people from all over the world solving riddles and doing fun things and using the IP. So everybody after the Bored Ape Yacht Club were copying this meta, which is the IP rights. So basically, if I owned the Bored Ape Yacht Club asset, I was able to take it and do whatever I wanted with it. I could start a company with it, a brand with it, recreate my art. I was making, you know, Mona Lisa ape or Harry Potter ape and then selling that at cost. So that's what got me to buy in, because how do you know? If it's worth nothing, like it didn't just go from $600 to 100,000, right? It took some time, not that much time, but it took some time to kind of build up and get there. And the reason why I bought in was because I saw my fellow artists in the community. Again, I got into the space as an artist, and fun fact, I never used fiat to purchase crypto, till this day. I do a little game with myself where I go from 0 to 100 to 0 to 100, and I either sell my services or my art and whatnot. I always find a way, because again, when in regards to investing, like, never use your rent money or grocery money. That's a recipe for failure, okay? Listen to me, you know, please. So again, the use case was community and network. It's a big thing in the Web3 space, is network. It expanded my network. You know, I was in Twitter spaces or Clubhouse rooms with, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, he was in the rooms that we were in to kind of learn about the culture and understand. So it's a huge tool to expand your network. So that's the use case at the time, was being able to make a brand from it, flip your art from it. So again, I was making my art and flipping it for 0.08. So you're already making back your money. This is before it was, you know, actually something profitable.
So, Mena, after losing 30,000 dirhams in 15 minutes, what's your strategy? Or what have you changed your strategy? There are holders, there are traders. People, they get into crypto thinking they're traders, and that's how they lose money, right? Have you evolved your strategy, or do you suggest people to be actual holders, or the other way around?
That's an excellent question, right? When you lose a lot of money really quick, you're forced to change, okay? So my strategy is very simple. I just look at the technology and I try to understand, is this where the world is going? Does it, again, I really dislike using banks and doing bank transfers. They take a long time. I have to call people. Somebody has to be half asleep, and somebody else answers me, and the process is just, it's really difficult, all right? So when I use Bitcoin, and it just flies within seconds, and it reaches you, and the transaction fee is very small, it just makes sense to me. That's how I make these investment decisions. I look at the technology, and I invest in the technology. And once I invest in the technology, it becomes really simple. I stop to be this analyst who tries to price things and stuff. I just look at this technology and I think, you know what, Ethereum makes sense because all these projects are building on Ethereum, and they have this huge community that gives it utility. This is a decent investment. Bitcoin, all right, it has this finite supply, and it's going to end at 21 million, and I can use it as store of value. It's the thing that created blockchain, decent investment. Polygon, it uses Ethereum to make Ethereum easier to reduce the gas fees, because gas fees of Ethereum are very high, another decent use case. If I see a team that creates a crypto and it's just one dude on the website, and he just created this random supply, there's 10 billion tokens, and you know the founders get this and this and that, well, it's a horrible creation if it has no use case, because obviously, that founder, at some point in time, who controls the money supply, is going to just pull out whatever he wants, right? Any human challenges that he's going to face as an entrepreneur, like, oh, the government just sent me a legal notice, you know, how do I deal with this? And he has no expertise. He's going to pull the entire supply and bounce, right?
And let's say I have a crypto project, and I go to you, Mena, and I say, look, I need money, I need funding. What are the questions that VCs are going to ask me so that I can be ready for them?
Absolutely. This is a great question. So we've helped crypto projects, I think, raise close to 100 million in 5 years. And I'm really glad to say that, at least the ones that I know of, we've never had this problem, okay? And it's always character analysis. Like, people forget that it's human beings who run crypto, right? So VCs do character analysis. They'll sit down with the entrepreneur, they'll understand what they've done in the past, how they've succeeded, how they've had different challenges, and then they'll ask them about the technology as well, right? They'll understand the tokenomics. Do you have an infinite supply? Can you just print tokens like what FTT did? Can you just print it out of thin air and value it? Or are you burning the supply? Like Ethereum, a lot of people maybe don't know this, but Ethereum, Vitalik is not actually the CEO of Ethereum, right? They leave it to just run, and it has a burn supply built into it. So they burn the supply. Unlike Bitcoin, which is like finite, Ethereum burn the supply. So there's a lot of questions to ask. It involves the character questions and the tokenomics, understanding the tokenomics and the use cases. What is your crypto? Is it just a token for me to raise funds, or does it actually give back to the community? Maybe you can use the tokens to buy NFTs, or use it in the metaverse as a play to earn. So these three things.
You mentioned gas fees. Now this comes to you, right? If a user is paying, there's gas fees involved, right? Now, in this case, the user takes over the gas fees when he's paying?
Yes.
And when the merchant receives the payment, what's the benefit for the merchant in receiving crypto payment? Or is this just adds another payment mechanism as a value?
Okay, so the question is that what are the benefits for merchant to basically have their customers make payment in cryptocurrency, right? So let's look at it from revenue point of view first, right? So obviously the gas fee is paid by the customer. The merchant receives the quote value, the invoice value. Let's say the cost of the coffee, it's let's say 100, it's not $100, but let's say the cost of any utility is $100. So minus whatever the transaction fee is, merchant gets that amount in their bank account. What it also does is it helps merchant reach to a global customer base, because cryptocurrencies, as we know, are irrespective of jurisdiction. So anybody from any part of the world can hold cryptocurrency and make payment using cryptocurrency into that particular jurisdiction, provided you have done all the KYC, KYT, AML checks. The second benefit for the merchant is that I think there's a report on report by one of the reputed company that when a merchant markets itself as an entity that is accepting crypto payments, of the crypto payments that are made to them by customers, 40% of those payments happen from new customers. So basically what it means is it increases your revenue, you get more customers. So that's a good benefit from a business standpoint for the merchant. And yeah, so this is it. So good for business, cryptocurrency as a payment. I don't want to get into the ideological concept of decentralization and all, because I believe from an adoption perspective and from a business perspective, ideology plays a very, very insignificant role, right? It's maybe very good for the start. So the revolution starts with ideology, 100%. But when it becomes mainstream, that ideology has to percolate into genuine need. Somebody really wants to make use of cryptocurrency. For example, I'll take an example of India, right? India has UPI, Unified Payment Interface. You can actually do bank transfer from one person to person. I'm not saying wallet transfer. I'm talking about bank transfer from one bank to another bank instantaneously in the 1 second. So when you have something like that, the use for cryptocurrency for domestic payment just goes out of the toss. But I know for sure, I've spoken to a lot of people from other countries, that's not the case. The settlement time over there is 3 days, 4 days, sometimes even as bad as 8, 10 days. So there's a legit use case over there, right?
And sorry, but if it's so good, crypto payments, why are we not seeing more of it?
Yeah, so when I said good, in the sense,
the benefits of it, yeah. The benefits for the customer, the benefits for the merchant.
Right. So I believe that adoption is the main problem that a lot of centralized or decentralized exchanges are trying to solve. A lot of people in the world don't hold cryptocurrencies to a level. So that's one. Second is genuine awareness about it that is leading to adoption. Third is the, I would say, the fear of whether crypto is genuinely authentic or not authentic. Is it supported by the government? Because believe it or not, we still live in a world that is regulated by governments all around, everywhere, right?
I believe you.
So most of the people generally fear, if I'm making use of this particular technology, how safe it is. We must break those myths, and obviously through education we will do that. But that's the main reason. Adoption is the main reason why that's not happening.
Now, in terms of fiat, you mentioned India, we are in Dubai. Taking this product or this service, in what fiat will they receive the payment? Would it be USDT or would it be the native?
No. So let's say if you're operating for merchants based out of Dubai, let's say, so we will give them fiat based on what is the fiat requirement they have. So a lot of merchants here in Dubai have multi-currency accounts. They prefer dirhams, but they're okay with US dollars also, right? So the preference is to give them that. If a merchant says, no, my preference is in USDT or USDC, we can settle it into that as well.
But then USDT, USDC is crypto.
Right.
So in that case, most users here, most merchants would prefer to get dirhams.
Yes, you're right. So that's our observation.
And there's a tiny risk of, I would say, exchange rate fluctuation.
Risk of exchange rate fluctuation. No, so we are committing to the conversion to the merchant, let's say, right? So let's say in a destabilization scenario where let's say there is a massive market event and let's say the price of the cryptocurrency, a particular cryptocurrency, the volatility is let's say anything above 20% or 25%, what will happen is that you will hold the withdrawals or hold the transfer of that particular cryptocurrency, and then you will recommend to the customer that we suggest that you make payment using these cryptocurrencies because they are right now stable for that 5-10 minutes, right? But we have committed to the merchant that you're going to receive so much money in their bank account. So whoever is taking the risk, in this case the solution provider or the exchange, is liable to make that payment to the merchant.
It's open question. Do you guys foresee a future where there is no Visa card, no MasterCard, no cash, just crypto payments?
I have a really good answer for you. Do you mind? So, so this question also tags with your question, okay? Well, if crypto is so good, why isn't it,
used everywhere by everybody?
Used everywhere, all right? There's another way to think about this. It took us thousands of years to stop trading tomatoes for bread, right? Like 5,000 years ago. And then it took us another 1,000 or 2,000 years to be like, you know what, your tomatoes are going to expire tomorrow. I'm going to give you this gold, and you give me stuff. And then it took us 100 or 150 years. Actually, the Rothschild family created the banking system, right? That took like 600 years. But then it took us 10 years, like 10 years of Bitcoin education to get 4% of the world into crypto, which is like 350 million people. So does that make sense? It took 10 years for this technology.
No, it definitely makes sense.
To get that many.
The pace
people.
is just okay.
It's like 100 to 1,000x of anything else we've used before.
Can I add? I'll add to that really quick. I think that why isn't there a mass adoption question is that crypto gets a lot of bad press. And we have to understand that every industry has a little bit of corruption. Like there's going to be people that are using money for bad things. There's going to be maybe people using crypto for bad things, So crypto gets a lot of bad press, especially like recently. But I mean, a little controversial here, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, do maybe governments or people want you to have full ownership of your funds? Because at the end of the day, if it's in the bank, they control where it goes and how you spend it and what's going on.
It also reveals the bad actors fast. The reason that we were able to, so the SEC, if anybody followed the FTX thing, do people know what FTX is and Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yep.
So the reason that the SEC charged Sam Bankman-Fried within like a month of finding out what he did. This has never happened in the history of SEC, all right? The SEC takes like a year to charge you with anything when there are victims of financial fraud. The only reason that they've been able to do that fast is because the blockchain is very transparent, right? We know exactly how much this person lost. We know exactly how much left out of FTX. There was no requirement for insane auditing practices. It was very clear what has happened. So, to add to what you're saying, blockchain, I'm going to stop saying crypto, okay? Blockchain technology helps you understand the bad actors a lot faster than anything else that we have. That's
People may lie, but the blockchain doesn't lie.
So, thank you. I mean, really, really great insights. So, what's next for each of you? What's next for you? Like, what are your immediate plans in the short term?
Future plans for your businesses.
I'm really excited about AI. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the ChatGPT. Anybody? If you're not, somebody is. Okay, you all should be. AI is going to be the next wave completely. So I want to incorporate whatever I'm doing in the Web3 space and, utilizing tools of AI. I mean, AI has been helping me write most of my content right now. I mean, the new wave of it is extraordinary, and we're seeing it in a lot of different places. So definitely for me, it's continuing what I'm doing. I mean, I host daily spaces on Twitter, and I'm in touch with the community. I have the finger on the pulse of where people are going, what's next for Web3 space or blockchain technology or how it's evolving. Because one thing, and I'll just say this and pass it over, is if you're a company and you don't want to touch NFTs or blockchain technology, you can learn from the Web3 space about we live, no matter what, in an attention economy. So the thing about the Web3 space is that what was cool a week ago is not cool a week later. So having to pivot as founders or just even content creators or influencers or whatever it is in the space is something like, it's been a learning curve for me where you always have to, keep it fresh. And I think that a lot of people, again, company owners, like the way that we're working, even like, everyone's working online, not in the office, like the way that we're operating has now changed, and like we need to pay attention to the new meta all the time and keeping it fresh. So I guess you could say I'll just keep keeping it fresh.
What's next for you?
Yeah, I want to answer your question completely different way, okay? This is a very important question.
You're asking us questions? It should be the other way around.
No, please.
So the question is, what is next for you, all right? I try to live my life like 3 hours at a time, right? This is the only way I get anything.
What's next for you in the next 3 hours?
I think we have a few Zoom calls that we need to reschedule. Abdul, you need to...
Lunch.
So that's what I try to focus on. I try to focus like 3 hours at a time, and I try to focus on like the next small win, and I just keep that going, and then over 3-4 years, that has led me to build a business that did 7 figures plus in revenue. So I try to, like, regardless of what's going on, metaverse, NFT, all that stuff, even though I'm in it, I just try to like look 3 hours ahead.
As Michaela said, step by step.
Yeah, like step by step. And it sounds simple, all right? But if we all do this, I fail to do this a lot, probably more than everybody. If we all just like take life like tiny little steps and focus on like tiny little wins, you'll be shocked at where you reach after like, a few years.
Very inspiring.
Yeah.
Very inspiring.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, so the question is, what next, right? So
what's next for Barter?
Right, so we are going to
especially
keep,
also in the region.
Right. So we are going to keep our head down and build the best regulated crypto payment solution that there is, and build a massive distribution for that. That's what we are looking at the next 3 years, 2 to 3 years.
Amazing, amazing. Really inspiring, some really good insights. I think really good education. I'm sure the crowd learned a lot. Thank you very much. We will now take questions.
Thank you for having us here.
It's not over yet. Now it's their time to ask.
Yeah, we will now take questions. So,
do we got one?
Anybody?
I have. Can you hear me? You got mics.
I think they do this on purpose.
So, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
Great.
I got 2 comments first. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. When you plan your life 3 hours at a time. So inspiring. It gives me goosebumps. I feel like it's a life-changing comment. And thank you very much. This is like itself is enough of what I got out of today.
My pleasure.
But what do you do when you go to sleep?
So that's that.
You gotta wake up to plan for your next 3 hours. That was a joke only. No need to answer.
I have an answer for that. While I sleep, I don't know if you've seen Inception. While you sleep, you dream. The deeper you go into the dreams, you actually wake up finding a solution for your problem. So while you're sleeping, you're actually working.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
I love
That's a
how
whole
this is
panel
becoming
on
an
its
inspirational.
Your joke turned into a like,
inspirational. I like it. I like it.
And a second inspiration I got from this conversation, which is not related to the conversation itself completely. Michaela, is that your name? Do you also have the same rule of having 24 hours a day? So you manage a lot of things in 24 hours. So inspiring.
Same rule. Okay, it took me a second to understand.
The mic.
I overwhelm myself a lot.
Michaela, mic.
Oh, I overwhelm myself a lot. So it's right now I'm trying to prioritize certain things. But it's like a blessing and a curse, like wanting to do everything and being so excited and passionate about a lot of different things. Sometimes I do feel like a, jack of all trades and a master of none. So sometimes I do wish that I just focused on one thing and I was like, an expert at that one thing. But I am happy that I get to, taste all different aspects of life in the world. So
That's
hopefully.
amazing. Now to the question.
Oh.
At some point, we heard the news. Elon Musk is accepting cryptocurrency through Tesla. You can buy your Tesla for crypto. At another point, we heard I'mar is accepting crypto for properties. Now there is a cafe in Dubai Mall that accepts crypto. But what's happening is that it's an individual initiatives for accepting payment ways. So at what stage I know that this is fake or this is true or this is going to be the future or this is a decision will change with the next board of directors taking over?
So I think, Ronit, this is for you, but if you want, I can answer as well.
Right. So let me just re-articulate and tell me if I've understood the question right. You were saying that at what stage does a consumer or a customer get to understand whether these crypto payments are legitimate?
This is the way forward. Like, you're not going to change your strategy going forward. So I know that I'm going to trust this method. So if I'm a startup, I know that I should invest in gateway payment system related to crypto. Because what happened is certain figures that are leading the social media can make a decision,
right? And
the next day everyone is going crazy about it, and then in few months the decision is made,
right,
and the decision is changed, and then this is not the way Tesla you can buy Tesla anymore.
Got it.
Or this is not the way Amar is selling their properties anymore.
Got it, right? So let me try to answer that question from two perspectives. One perspective is a bottom-up perspective wherein you create a product that has high convenience and quick realization, which means that you are standing in front of the, let's say, checkout. You make the payment in cryptocurrency and the merchant immediately receives that money in their bank account or in their wallet or wherever, right? So that experience creates trust. So that's one angle. The second angle is the top-down approach, which is when it gets regulated, when it becomes a part of the mainstream regulation, then you have marketing support from regulated entities proposing and telling you, and startups using these payment gateways general. So basically adoption. So with that, the adoption increase, and through that, the customer feels more safe and secure that, okay, this is not a gimmick or it's not unsafe, and you can actually make payments using cryptocurrencies. That's my take at this question.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any other questions? Well, so should we start off with the gentleman right in the front?
Hi. Can you hear me? Yes, hi. My question is probably to Michaela. From what I understood, what you were saying about your activities in Web3, you used the term quite often, buying, selling, NFTs, flipping, and so on. So perhaps not everyone here in the room understand what Web3 is about. And my question is that all it's that?
Can you repeat the last part? Is that
all what Web3 is about? Buying, selling, and flipping?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I didn't want to take away, because there's so many amazing speakers, and like, I don't know where the audience is at in these type of panels, but Web3 encompasses a lot. Like, the point that I was trying to make is that it's not just Bitcoin, right? It's not just blockchain technology. Web3 encompasses metaverse, which is the 3D digital space, which a lot of people envision to be Ready Player One, which, you know, to get there, that could be, you know, taking an interest in augmented reality or virtual reality. So metaverse, and then you have, again, blockchain falls under Web3. You have decentralization, you have NFTs, digital collectibles. So there's a bunch of different things that fall under the Web3 space. It's definitely not just about flipping. It's not just about trading crypto. You can be involved in the Web3 space. I don't trade crypto. My knowledge in trading crypto, I don't want to know. I don't want to touch it. For me, it's, you know, I heard about crypto many years ago and it didn't interest me. What interested me was the community aspect and the art aspect of NFTs. You can use NFT technology for provenance. So let's say if you're interested in art, provenance is very important, or royalties for an artist. I mean, Picasso would sell his painting and only make that money from the original Picasso painting. But now, if Picasso was alive today, he can make royalties forever and leave a legacy with his royalties. I hope that answered your question. It's definitely not just about flipping.
No, I understand kind of what Web3 is about. But from what you were saying, I had a vibe that this is all what's it about. But so obviously you explained it. Yeah, that's fair enough, that you actually doing other things, not just buying and flipping.
For sure. There's so many aspects more of the industry. So yeah, thank you for helping me clear that up, because that's definitely not what it's about. You don't need money to even invest into the space. All you need is your attention, and your just participation is an investment in this space.
Thank you very much.
I think, do I need a mic? I don't think so.
Loud and clear.
I will use the mic because there's
For the cameras, yeah.
here, who might not be able to hear. Michaela, this question's for you. Being a jack of all trades, that relates to me a lot, and sometimes people come up to me and tell me that, oh, you're into blockchain, you're into radio, you're into TV, you're into different industries, diamond, gold, whatever the industries are. I have decided, I need your advice on this. I have decided to kind of funnel or structure this within Web3, and how would I do that? Have you come across this? My question is, are you able to actually do that? Funnel everything to, or shift everything on Web3, and does it take a lot of effort or investment?
Yeah, amazing question, and thank you for asking me. So hopefully I can give a nice answer. So I think this happens with a lot of people where they see like blockchain and NFTs and they're like, well, I'm not an artist, I'm not interested in crypto, so it's not a place for me. Web3 is the next phase of the internet. So all of your talents and jobs that you're doing right now is valid and needed in the Web3 space. We need lawyers, business developers, journalists, hosts, every single thing that you named can be applied in the Web3 space and is welcomed and wanted. Does it take a lot of effort? Yes. I'm in this space 24/7 and I haven't taken a break since I got in because I'm passionate about it, but because also this is like a playground. It's your time to, if you see something that's not right, or if you see something that hasn't been built yet, let's go, come on, calling all builders. So to answer, hopefully, the question, and to anybody that may have the same question, all your skills right now are needed from the Web2 space. Like Web2 is all the apps like WhatsApp and Uber and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. All of those apps need all of those, we're all on those apps. So it's like saying, okay, if I'm, in the cooking industry, if I'm in a lawyer or marketing industry, is Web3 for me if I'm not interested in blockchain or NFTs? Well, it's gonna be integrated in a way whether we like it or not, because that's the next phase of the internet.
Sorry, just to reiterate, do you think this is going to take because I have been waiting for this opportunity to have these industries to be recognized or come on to Web3, but don't you think it's going to be very late for some people like myself? For example, I'm losing, I might be actually losing a lot of business because some of the businesses are not ready. How do I convince them?
What are you focused on right now? I know you're doing a lot of things, but what are you focused on?
Exactly. So that's exactly what I was gonna say. My focus at the moment is into currently it's tourism.
Okay, fantastic. You can bring tourism in the Web3 space. You get yourself on a Twitter space. This is like the main platform for Web3 right now, which sounds interesting because it goes with the social media. We can connect after because I don't want to take away from anybody. But tourism, you can do a Web3 tourism agency. There's so many people, just like myself the other day, I was like, oh, I wish I had, an agent to help me. I wanted to, plan a trip to Thailand. That would be great if I could pay you in crypto, So it's all about also taking your services and taking payment for it. But it's just being in that community, being in that culture, it's for everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Let me add on to that, if you may. We actually touched the thing about the topic of tourism in one of our previous panels, and the idea came up of metaverse, where, for example, you have a couple that wants to go on a honeymoon to the Maldives, but they cannot afford it. But you could send them on a trip out through the metaverse to Maldives. So you allow them access through the metaverse.
Yeah, I know, but I need to put a lot of effort as a tourism company or an agency to my clients to tell them that, hey, you know what, pay less and go on metaverse. But
if I may add, a metaverse can also be an experience, right? And say, now you're in the tourism industry and this integrates very well. If I want to go to a certain location, right? And before I go there, I just want to experience it first, like I'll just get an idea of it. This is one of the suggestions. Perhaps have a metaverse space or an immersive experience on the web. Nowadays, you have MaaS, metaverse is a service which you can have on the website. They enter your website, no login, no downloading, nothing. They come in and they're roaming around in that particular destination. They click on, for example, say Maldives, and they can go around and check out Maldives digitally in a 3D space, interact, look around, and in fact even book something, the hotel right there from your website.
And
that's an experience.
Another quick ad. You can be the Web3 tourist agency that for all the crypto conferences, so many NFT conferences, NFT London, NFT NYC, hundreds and thousands of people are coming in from all over the world that need, let's say you're coming from Dubai and you've never been to New York. What do I do in New York? You work with those events. You work and be the main person. Like there's no one like that yet. You can be the first people.
It is so exciting. Thank you very much. And what you just mentioned, that could be our great marketing tool, definitely.
In fact, there's in our panel, I think it was day 2, we had a company called Journey, right? And Journey has built experiences for BMW, for H&M, Cartier. So literally what happens for the BMW metaverse experience, they go to the BMW website and they enter the metaverse through the web. Simple, fast, easy. And he's roaming around. He can open the car, sit inside the car, check out the dashboard, click on different, and experience the car in the metaverse. And then he's like, okay, you know what? I like this. So I think the metaverse is just a whole new experience. Imagine, by the way, Emirates Airlines or any other airline, right? At the moment you book a seat on a JPEG file, book here red, black, whatever. Imagine you can, through the metaverse, enter the aircraft, check out your view, check out how it looks like roaming around the aircraft, to go to the business class, to roam around, the business class lounge.
Same for hotel rooms also.
Exactly. Yeah, I've seen that with Alan. Alan, who has created the biggest mall. Actually, he has a kind of a contract with the.
Ronit, he's going to start accepting crypto payments, yeah? That's your
So we're endorsing a lot of brands here, BMW, Emirates, so I think we need to, I'm a person who is concerned about, about my payment when I mention any brand, so.
All right. So your journey will start with crypto payments and then we'll move into metaverse.
Thank you very much for that amazing question. For the speakers to elaborate, I hope we tackled.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Of course, we need to talk, and we need to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have some private rooms in the first floor if you want to talk privately, so that's available for all of you.
Yes. I guess we'll take one more question, and then I don't know about you guys, but I'm starving. So just after this, we're going to eat. Just one more question. He's doing it.
Thank you. During the talk, I think one of you mentioned decentralization as something ideological, and that maybe as the industry grows up, perhaps that needs to step aside. And it's certainly true that the genesis of this technology came from a place of ideology, but it's also true that decentralization is really the core of blockchain technology. And it's a simple fact that if I'm going to hold significant assets on a blockchain, I want to make sure that there is no single point of failure or control for my assets. So I just wanted to ask the panel, in your view, what is the meaning, the purpose, and the value of decentralization in this technology?
So I agree with you. Maybe you misunderstood when I said that maybe it's not valuable. But my point of view was more from a user perspective, when a user engages with the product, or when a user buys a service or a product, they are less worried in general about what is the technology that is being used, what kind of code has been used to make that product, right? For them, the primary point of thought is what is the value that I'm getting from that product and service, and is that value good enough for me to make that kind of payment? So, of course, decentralization is at the core of blockchain technology in general, and sorry, your question was?
The value of decentralization. I think what I see in the space is that there are lots of projects which use the language of blockchain and decentralization, but at the end of the day, it's a software venture with a couple of people who maybe control the whole chain or the whole project, as opposed to Bitcoin or Ethereum that are really truly decentralized settlement layers.
I'll just finish with one comment. So true decentralization from my perspective is the percolation or distribution of authority or power in the hands of everybody, so that decision making happens at the core, at the bottom level, right? So that's at fundamental. But I agree with you that it's used more as a marketing tool right now, because that's the new word in the ecosystem. But the convenience and the need is brought in by a lot of centralized technology. But I also have hope that we will build something beautiful and meaningful with decentralization as a core concept at the center.
In my opinion, your thought, the reason you're asking this question is because your thought process is exactly correct, right? Bitcoin stands as the most valuable cryptocurrency because the point of it is that it's decentralized, it's a store of value, right? And people get to believe. So first of all, nothing increases in price if people don't believe in it. Okay, and it's the same thing with the currency. Like when the government decides that this currency is this value, it's because everybody must use that currency to buy things. So Bitcoin is where it is because people believe in it and it's truly decentralized. Ethereum is another good example. But yes, we should be skeptical of companies that create, or like you said, like software companies that create decentralized process, and then they're the ones who hold all the tokens. It's decentralized technology, but it's a centralized formulation of a decentralized technology. Does that make sense?
In one word.
So what's what's the value, right? What's the value? People need to believe that this is an easier way to make payments, and this is why I focus specifically on transactions and a method of payment. If you're going to pay me for a business service, I want it in Bitcoin. It's faster, it's cheaper, just easier for me to use. And then I go to the community who trades or they do what they do, and I liquidate it there, right? If I need fiat, so that I can interact with this system that uses fiat. So that's the value. It should be really as a means of payment or a means of transacting art through data images, right? Or a means of storing value. It just really goes back to do people really understand what blockchain technology is? Do people understand what Web 2 is? If you understand what Web 2 is, you understand what Web 3 is. And if you understand what Web 1 is, which was you going on the internet and not being able to interact with it, just read only. Web 1 is a read only form of the internet. Web 2 is interactive applications. Web 3 is me putting on the glasses, going and seeing you, right, without having to use Zoom, and then paying you with cryptocurrency, which is a decentralized. So that's the natural thing. So yeah, this is an excellent question.
If I would add just a single word, the purpose of blockchain is transparency. Regardless of what's centralized up, you can see everything that happens on blockchain openly. So it's transparent. So I'm starving. With this having said, I would like to thank the audience. Thank you very much to the speakers. A round of applause for them because very, very inspiring and inspirational. There's lunch out there, so you want to?
So yeah, so let's have a lunch and continue those conversations, and we're back at 2:30. So thank you for coming at 2:30, people. Yeah, and there is also, of course, we're going to start again with the masterclass this afternoon, talking about how the investment thesis for crypto is changing and about tokenizing tangible assets. Have a good lunch.